Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack, and today I am doing Darwyn Cooke solo. Right now we have all these other great books. Darwyn Cooke. We have DC: The New Frontier. We have Parker. He's also done. What else has he done? He's a Wolverine dupe. He's done. He's so famous for doing Batman the animated series. He did the animated Men in Black series. Regretfully, we lost Darwyn Cooke, one of the great artists. And we're just gonna run through one of his books right now, and then later we'll get into other book. But Solo was a book that he worked on, which was I think they got up to 11 or 12 thing. This was similar to a book that they did I think it was Pacific, where they took a lot of old pieces of work of a creator like Bernie Wrightson and put it all in one book, one comic. This allows the comic artists to kind of spread their wings, and they do multiple stories in different kind of formats, whatever they choose. We also had one by Jordy Burnett, and we also had by Tim Sale with one story written by Darwyn Cooke. I believe it's the Catwoman story in here. We'll get to that later at some point, right? See, Darwyn Cooke wrote that, but we're not going to do that today. We're going to stick with this one, and hopefully later, if there's some interest, maybe we'll do some Parkers, and so we got to do New Frontier. Well, we got to do Parker too, but there's 4 of them, so that's a lot to go through, and I probably have to figure a best way to do this. But let's go through this, right? So Solo. Oh, and the last thing, it was about 11 or 12 issues, and then they also, when the series was kind of canceled, they had one that they were going to do with Walter Simonson. It was repackaged as a graphic novel, right? So let's go, right? We got Darwyn Cooke solo. We have Slam Bradley on here with some sort of charcoal thing, and then as you see, you have one that's like a pencil drawing here of a kid. It says for Roberta, right? So it's going to lead to something that's within the story. So I'm not going to. Some of this stuff has some very artsy effects because there's different styles all through this. So it's going to be something it's not going to be that clear, but you'll see how cool the pictures look. So some of this will just be pretty pictures for you. I'll give you a little bit of the story, but we're going to move forward with this thing, right? So we have 7 stories in the Slam Bradley story that kind of like loosely ties these all together, right? So we start with Slam Bradley, but this style is sort of like magazine, sort of cartoon, kind of Mad Magazine. Yeah, Mad Magazine, like there's kind of, I guess I could say Art Deco. I'm not sure. This is my rudimentary art knowledge, so there's not much to it that I used to like to draw. But ultimately, stay here. Ultimately, something happened before he gets hit. He comes back to reality with this nice sort of heavy line that he's using. He's going to Jimmy's gym bar, right? So this will lead you right to the story called World's Window, right? So it starts off, and you're not gonna really know who these characters are. And this kind of starts with a kind of a 2-color format, which is like yellow and black, right, with some shading in there. And as it goes, we say Mr. Cooke. So you know this is gonna be connected to Darwyn in some way, right? Right. So obviously his father would be Mr. Cooke, and then this kid would possibly be him, right? So he is really enamored with this golf club, but he hears something, and someone's saying not to hit the golf club against the glass. And then he comes in and he beats Roberta. Now another color is introduced here, right? So giving you a different sort of thing and a different aspect for this little boy, right? It's Grant's boy, so it's Grant Cooke. So that would be possibly Darwyn Cooke, right? So Roberta starts showing him some things, and he's totally enamored by it, right? And he's painting there. He's having a good time. His father's holding his golf club. He's holding all his art supplies. right? And let's say Bobby, who's Roberta, made his day. The golf club is on the side, but in the background, you see him with a blank page, right? It's a real cool story, easy to catch. Then we go to Slam Bradley has this competition who has the most scars with this lady in the bar. Of course, ladies always win, right? Well, this is a King Faraday story, right? Basically, a sort of a spy story set in Cuba. That there's a Faraday and he's working with another undercover agent, and they're following this terrible sort of drug sort of person that's in there, right? I think it's a drug person, right? So see these effects? They give you that party sort of Cuba feel, right? So it's really cool. So some of the stuff you're not going to be able to see much of the dialogue. You'd have to have it in hand. So that's why I suggest to all the stuff that you go out and buy it, right? So, and then you start to see the terrible things of this guy that he's kind of scouting. He's undercover working with him, right? And of course, here's the drug dealer's wife. That's over here. This is Manale. That's the guy's name. And he did these terrible things, dropping these guys off of the thing to show power because he's worried about his wife, right? So what's he saying? Don't do anything wrong. Of course, we have a scene with the wife. And of course, he gets busted. It's going awry. He gets put where it was, where his those other guys were put, and of course, somehow he gets out. He's on a run. He goes back to get some things and gets caught by the wife, right? Javier's dead, but actually, it's a double cross. And we don't know if King Faraday made it out, right? So we see Slam over here. He's trying to, someone's checking up on him. He's trying to make the call to Selena, and this guy's on his case. He said, go read the funnies or something. So since he said that, we lead to a little interlude here with some of the funny pages, right? We got Angela 8, we got Joker and Harley, we got Roy Raymond, Detective. We got almost a brief history of the comic industry of how passing by, just a cool effect on the bottom, passing the comic stores and how it changed over the decades. A little Amazemo, Chemo, Maze with Amazemo. That's a I got it. Sorry, I got it now. You also have the Challengers, and you have Doc Magnus, who did the Middleman, and June Robbins, right? Then we have a nice ad right here, right? That sort of an ad sort of piece. Now this is the wacky. This is like, I think Steranko did this style of paneling. You'll see more of it in the next page. But this is a story between a torrid love affair with this guy, and you can see it in the foreground. It is what you think it is. My beloved vacuum cleaner is plotting to kill me. So this is a dramatic story with the person and his vacuum cleaner, right? So this is a part of Solo where you just get to have fun. And this is like, if you ever saw Nick Fury #1, the panels was kind of like this, right? So long 8-page panel grids, right? With some variation as you go along, right? But then, of course, cuts the cord and feels free, right? So look at all this cool stuff that you hear, right? So now we get here, we see sort of the setup with the dark elements, kind of setting up a kill for something that's connected to, I believe it's 9/11, right? And the person they called to do it was none other than the Question, and it leads right into it, right? And if you read this story, it's really about taking out the people that did 9/11, right? So at least setting them up, finding them, and they have the Question. This is updating the Question to say the Question could work in present day, even though Darwyn Cooke is seen as sort of a retro type artist, he's taking the question and updating them for doing with present day terrorists, right? And you have this sort of effect, you have Osama bin Laden, to all this stuff that's here. Weapons of crash reduction, right? And he's setting them all up, doing all these things in here, right? This is a cool story. Only this, if you liked Frank Miller's 2 seconds with the question, you'll love this, right? Then he goes home. He said, have everything set up. And he said, come sunrise, there'll be no question. I don't know. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen ever. You can't beat this, right? So we go back to Slam into the bar. He meets up with Selena. Drink the old friends. And then we have this Batman story where a kid goes through the same thing that Batman went through. But the person realized he didn't want to do that. And then his other people killed the husband, which is, and Batman sees this, sees the kid there. Batman stops that one. Kid sees it. Batman goes after the rest of the guys, right? And he's just threatening these guys. They've been driving, but they can't seem to get away from him. You see, he's the devil. They think he's gone and dead. Comes right back and doesn't let this guy die. Right? There's someone with a death wish. So we can go back one. The police arrive after Batman leaves. And then Batman gets home and he's going through the struggle of what he just went through. Seeing someone else go through the same thing he did. Right? So we get our last goodbyes with Selena and Slam. And that's it. A little brief biography about Darwyn Cooke. Oh yeah, I didn't also say Batman ego. That's another big thing. Right? So there we go. I think I started this. This is issue 5 of Solo. Well worth it. And we'll have more Darwyn Cooke as we go along. Spin a rack out.